This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Week, but today it's all about a rather unique experience. We're talking about ECW's One Night Stand 2006. And I don't know that you and I've ever talked about this, Kurt, but in real life, my favorite wrestling show I ever attended was ECW One Night Stand in 05. That crowd was just electric. How were they for 06?
They were obnoxious. They were loud. Right on top of you. The fans, that Hammerstein Ballroom is a tough venue to perform in front of because these fans are crazy and they're loud. Yeah. They don't stop. They say what they want to say, and they do what they want to do.
It is an unbelievable environment. I'm excited to talk about it. I mean, when you think about Kurt Angle and Randy Orton, that doesn't exactly seem or feel like an ECW show, but by God, they made it happen.
We did make it happen. I'm not sure how, but we made it happen. You're right.
So let's talk a little bit about One Night Stand 05. I sort of teased it at the top of our conversation that it was such an incredible experience as a fan to be at that show. You're actually at that show too. You were sitting up top with the Raw and SmackDown talent. And of course, Eric Bischoff was there and JBL was there, and they're jaw jacking with some other performers. And then there's the big brawl at the end of the night. What'd you think of One Night Stand 05? I mean, you're just in the brawl at the end, but you're getting to see how crazy hot this audience is and what they're excited about. What was your take back in 05 sitting in the crowd?
Oh, the crowd was crazy. They were obnoxious the whole night. They were loud as hell, didn't stop, continued. They just do what they want to do and say what they want to say. They're the most hardcore fans I've ever performed in front of. And with good reason. ECW fans are the most passionate fans in the world.
Let's keep it going here and talk a little bit more about the finish of the match. Oh, you know what? Before we do, the chants. You said they were, being obnoxious. They're getting lots of different ones here going. You even saw in the Observer boring and even hepatitis referenced. And to be clear, Randy nor Kurt have hepatitis, so whatever. Chat me up though. Is there a chant you got at an ECW show that you thought, what the hell are they saying? Because that has become sort of a trademark of an ECW crowd, these crazy chants.
I never heard of anything that was out of the ordinary. I'm sure you have, Conrad. But
oh yeah.
Name a few. I want to hear them.
Well, they had boy, this is something I didn't think I'd say on a podcast. They had a show your tits chant. Whenever there would be tables broken, they would have a guy go in the ring and sweep it up with a broom, and they would chant, "Sweep it up, asshole, sweep it up." They had another chant for a lady, and boy, this doesn't age well. "She's a crack whore." I mean, there were some over the top chants where you're like, am I at a wrestling show? What's going on right now?
That is one mean crowd.
This is a fired up crowd. Let's talk about the music though, because a chant that you'd become synonymous with and a big part of your character up until this ECW run is the pause in the music that allows the fans to chant "You suck." Now we've gotten rid of that. I realize that this is a weird sentence because out of context, it doesn't make any sense, but did you kind of miss the old "You suck" chants?
I actually never wanted I never wanted WWE to take the "You suck" chants out of my "You suck" song.
Right.
I love them as a babyface, as a heel. It was Vince McMahon that didn't like it. He didn't want fans chanting "You suck" when I was a babyface, when I was the wrestling machine.
Right.
Vince wanted to deter them from doing it, so he decided to take the "You suck" chants out of my song. I loved them. I always liked it. I never had a problem with it. And whether I was a heel or a baby, I knew when I was a heel, it was disrespectful. And as a baby, it was out of respect. So it was just something that the fans, related to me, and it stuck with. It stuck with it the rest of my career.
So here we are now. It's you and Randy Orton, ECW One Night Stand 06. You've said this was your favorite match during your short time in ECW. And here's what Dave Meltzer had to say about this. When Angle, the biggest star of the quote unquote new ECW, came out, there appeared to be some resistance to the idea he was infiltrating their sacred alliance, but soon enough, they were fine with accepting him. It was a weird crowd. Angle versus Orton was the only match on the show that didn't have at least one moment, if not several, where either guy was wrestling sloppily, mistiming moves, missing spots, or getting lost. Yet it was also the only match to get strong, boring chants. Orton was catcalled every time he used a wrestling hold. So let's just time out right there before we continue with the Observer recap. So Dave sort of felt like it was a weird crowd too, that eventually they came around to you and you guys had probably the best technical wrestling match on the card, but a boring chant. That's not something that Kurt Angle's gotten a lot of in his career. How'd you react to that?
Well, Randy was telling me to calm down. We made the match a little more methodical. We didn't have a lot of action starting off, and I think that might have affected the match a little bit. But Randy's such a great heel. He calmed the crowd down. He got him to get emotionally involved in the match. It took him some time, but he did it. And he was able to get the fans behind me, and that's what a great heel does. He has to frustrate the fans in a good way. Give them what they need, not what they want at the time. You give them what they want. What they want is the finish.
Yeah.
And Randy is holding them off until they start getting with the match. That's why Randy is so good.
So Randy was calling that match to the best of your recollection?
Yes, Randy called the match. The heel, for the most part, calls the match. He leads the match, and Randy was the best at it.
And for this show in particular, do you remember there being a lot of stuff that you guys would have worked out beforehand, or is it just going out there and feeling it out? Maybe you have a sequence here or there and the finish, and that's probably it.
Yeah, we went over the match. We went over for about an hour or so. We came up with some good ideas, came up with some good false finishes, the lead up to the finish, and the match was really smooth. I really liked it.
So even despite all of the boring chants and Orton getting catcalled, he wasn't rattled. He was ready for it, and he was probably in his element. I mean, he loves being a heel, so this is a great day for him, right?
Oh yeah, he loves pissing the fans off. I mean, that's Randy. If he could, he would wrestle for 3 hours and make them fall asleep. It's Randy. He just, he's a natural heel, and he wants the fans to absolutely hate him, and he's very good at it.
You've wrestled in Japan, and obviously the fans react a little differently to wrestling over there, and obviously they're polar opposites from what we saw here at Hammerstein. You've also wrestled in like Stone Cold Steve Austin's favorite arena is the old Rosemont Horizon, the Allstate Arena just outside of Chicago, and you've wrestled in open air stadiums and giant domes. But I've always been curious, what do you prefer? Because I feel like you'd want to be in front of a really hot crowd like this, but you said earlier, it's one of the more challenging audiences to wrestle in. I've heard other wrestlers say, man, Japan is really challenging because they don't make a lot of noise and cheer like we're used to here in America. And then at the same time, you hear other guys say, I don't want to wrestle in a stadium because that sound just goes straight up. You can't hear. What's your favorite style of crowd if you had to pick?
I like Rosemont, Madison Square Garden, those arenas that are big and full of space, but the fans aren't right on top of you, like the Hammerstein Ballroom.
Yeah.
That's an obnoxious crowd. It gets really hot in there. I mean, it's like, It's like an oven because it's so small and it's so, what's the word I'm looking for?
You're packed. I mean, you're jam packed in there like sardines. So the body heat just in and of itself, that many people in that small of a space is crazy.
It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I prefer not to wrestle in stadiums, even though they're the biggest, ticket sales. But,
Sure.
I do like the arenas that are big, like the Chicago or Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Or New York, even Pittsburgh or Philadelphia. They're great arenas.
Let's talk a little bit more about what we're doing after this. When you come backstage after your match, we've talked about it at WrestleMania and things like that. And we've seen a lot of stuff, if you will, on WWE documentaries, even if it's a Raw or SmackDown. When they have a big match, there's like a hero's welcome. I'm not assuming that you have that here with Randy Orton, but what was the backstage area or the quote unquote gorilla position like for One Night Stand compared to a regular WWE show? Any different or about the same?
It was about the same. It was just a different feel because of the arena and, having the fans, Hammerstein Ballroom is what, 3,000? You can fit 3,000 fans in there.
I mean, that might be on the high end. Let's look that up right fast.
Yeah. So it's not a very big arena. But it's very effective. It serves its purpose. It is the most obnoxious arena in the United States, and it has to do with both the arena and the fans. So I thought the night it was a normal night, but it wasn't normal because it was ECW.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'm curious, do you remember there being pushback from any WWE talents in terms of, their attitude towards the ECW? Why are we doing this? These fans are assholes. It's a small arena. Do you remember anyone being particularly vocal about the whole concept of doing this way?
No, nobody did. At least they didn't say it out loud. I'm sure they said it under their breath.
Sure.
But you don't want the boss hearing that he made a mistake, and you don't want to be a part of it. That'd be a tough thing for Vince to accept. So, I don't think nobody ever said anything, but I'm sure some of them were thinking.
Did you or Randy have the approach that, hey, we would have had a better match if it wasn't for the crowd? Did you think that maybe the fans tried to ruin the match and sort of, quote unquote, get themselves over at your expense?
I think the fans try to work you as long as they can until they can't. And what Randy did is he exhausted them and made them get with the match eventually. At first, they weren't with it, and they were chanting boring, or they weren't saying anything. And then they got a little rowdy. They got out of control, and then Randy calmed them down and got them into the match. Randy is a great storyteller, and he's the best heel in the business. He knows how to get the match back on track.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.